everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Eric Larsen Day. It's Saturday, so we're looking at the next issue for my collection of the Savage Dragon. This is issue number 34, cover dated December 1996. This is a really fun issue. There's been a string of crossovers in these past few issues on the Savage Dragon, so this one obviously is crossing over with Hellboy. I like the way Eric Larsen, I've talked about this before, seems to incorporate some of the tics of the original creator's art in his depiction of those characters, which are not his and which have been created by other guys, in this case Mike Mignola. So the slightly more angular lines, the thinner lines, more shadows overall, that kind of just cut out of nowhere a little bit. The simplified kind of line work for the hand, at least specifically the right hand of Doom, the Hellboy walks around with. Pretty cool all around, and incorporates this guy in the back who will have kind of a major role to play in the story in this issue. So off we go with Hellboy meets Savage Dragon. All right, we got Eric Larsen, creator, writer, penciler, inker. Mike Mignola, Hellboy creator and speech therapist. I guess he's helping out with dialogue. Chris Eliopoulos, letterer. iHawk doing the colors. Calligraphics, film output, whatever that is. No one's answered me yet. And starting off with what I find, like, he's that strength that he has to kind of work in the quirks of other artists. You know, he's not drawing exactly like Mike Mignola, but he's giving you a Mike Mignola feel in as far as his layouts here. This is almost a panel from Hellboy, and just, you know, incorporating Mike Mignola's stuff into his own to give you a familiar feel to Hellboy, even though he's appearing in Savage Dragon. This was cool in a flashback, things of my youth kind of way, because seeing Hitler here fighting Hellboy in this suit reminded me of my first encounter with the video game Wolfenstein on the computer, and that was back in the day, 1990, 91, something like that. Not quite sure, where at the end of the Wolfenstein, that first Wolfenstein game, you would face off against Hitler and a robot. So definitely gave me some nostalgia from way back when. And this is pretty typical because Hellboy is always fighting Nazis, basically. Very often is. You know, I don't know if Mike Mignola actually tackled Hitler in the Hellboy series at any point, so maybe he was okay to let Eric Larsen do it here. I'm not quite sure. But as you'll see, he'll be playing a role in the Savage Dragon world for sure. So boom, everything explodes here, right? The dialogue, the Mike Mignola-esque Hitler. I just killed Adolf Hitler. And again, look at the ticks here. The you know, the full silhouettes with just little splashes of white on the inside is definitely something that Mike Mignola was doing in and around this time. You'll see in the pinup in this issue, his style had started to change and evolve and become slightly more simplified, a little rougher and gruffer, not quite as precise, which I still think is great, but I really, again, I'm a big fan of that early 90s Mike Mignola, that X-Force issue, the X-Men stuff he was supposed to do, that amazing Cable and Wolverine pinup that he did. I'm not quite sure where that appears. Maybe in Wolverine? Not quite sure. Anyways. So we've got Hitler's head kind of bouncing around here and getting picked up by this guy. And we move to the future and to, I think his name is Brainy Ape, that's it. And so we've made the connection that basically this is Hitler's brain inside of Brainy Ape. And, you know, he still believes he should be the leader, right? Cyberface is having problems, as you'll see. But still here, he's being basically asked to... Dragon has developed immunity to his power, just as he is against Mind Warp. Dragon's never faced you, however, and since you do owe him one for patching you up, Cyberface feels killing Dragon is the least you can do. So Brainy Ape is supposed to go after Dragon. If not, he stays chained up here. And that's basically where we're at there. Cyberface, basically, he's been brought back by Project Born Again, right? The same kind of deal for the Bloodstrike guys, I think, over in the Extreme Universe. I'm pretty sure I'm okay on that, but correct me if I'm not. And basically, he's starting to decay. The process hasn't worked properly, and he's going to die again, basically. Slowly becoming, you know, decomposed and flies everywhere, which is a great visual touch. I think every time we see Cyberface slowly deteriorating, throughout the issue, the visual depiction is just great. This character here is very interesting. I think it's Eric Larsen creating a character, but almost like a character that would appear in the Hellboy world, in my mind. So not quite sure what the origins of this guy is. You know, is he a Mike Mignola character or is he an Eric Larsen character? I feel like he's an Eric Larsen creation filtered through a Mike Mignola kind of filter, right? I could be wrong, but man, there's something really cool, I think, about the visual there that could completely work in Hellboy. That's why I'm kind of, you know, going with that hypothesis. These kind of, you know, attached by wire bits of the arms and the forearm and stuff, kind of macabre and gross. Definitely, you know, I never made the connection, but yeah, so Mignola definitely has some body horror stuff in Hellboy, and Eric Larsen definitely has a crap load of that in the Savage Dragon. So Savage Dragon is basically in this issue mostly sidelined until the end, basically by Christmas. So he's spending Christmas with Frank, right? Things aren't so great with Rapture. Their baby has apparently died, as we saw last issue, the last splash page, maybe not, but I guess we'll find out later. But in Dragon's eyes, Frank's eyes, the world's eyes, the baby unfortunately died a little bit after birth. So that Mike Mignola type character that I was talking about earlier is actually there to help Cyberface by calling on all these people who defy death, right, through their powers. That's basically kind of the concept of this plot in this issue. So calling on all zombies who are alive, vampires and things like that, right? So that's why you get Hellboy mixed in there because, you know, he's the paranormal investigator and encounters a few of these zombies who basically are at odds with each other and fighting themselves, and in typical fashion, Hellboy just kind of walking away right from the situation, not getting involved. But then these vampire ladies kind of noticing Hellboy and the fact that he's, as they describe him, a warm blood. Trouble Dragon, of course. So now the police have been alerted and off they go. I really like this shot of the police car. There's something kind of Walt Simonson about it, I guess. You know, the lighting and stuff, definitely. But there's also something that's more akin to like Mad Magazine or like newspaper strip art, or I don't know what exactly. But there's just, yeah, I love the way, you know, the perspective is great. It looks like a car and it looks like those cop cars from the 80s, right? But there's all the scratchy lines they use to define it just really make it move and seem dynamic. Always felt like this is some sort of Kirby reference. Kirby did the Mummy a bunch of times, I'm pretty sure, but there's a specific time in the 70s where he kind of did something similar to this, and I feel like that's where he's pulling from. Eric Larsen has always professed to be a big fan of Kamandi, right, in the 70s Kirby, which I'm also a huge fan of. So I definitely think that's a reference to one of those big monster characters that Kirby introduced. And again, the way he does the Hellboy, as opposed to the Savage Dragon, you'll see simpler lines, kind of a little more naive, quicker drawn, quicker inked, bigger kind of splotches of black, right? So to remind us of the Mike Mignola style. And here's, interestingly, yeah, the pinup, right? Where this is the period, like, you could see that Hellboy just kind of gets skinnier and skinnier. He used to be kind of a big, kind of muscular monster guy, and his limbs and stuff just tends to get skinnier and skinnier throughout the series. Shoulders get more and more kind of bottle shaped and slumped over. So this is kind of an in-between from his, like I said, early 90s style, that first Hellboy miniseries, lots of shadows and stuff, but still very kind of clean and precise. And where now he's roughing it up a bit more and kind of, you know, just not being so precious with it. And even this is, you know, I'll point out, as you can see, where before he would fill in the black completely and give you a full shadow, he's starting to leave little spots or maybe throwing in some white. I'm not quite sure, which he didn't do, you know, in those early 90s on that first Hellboy miniseries, at least the first few. Get a nice, cool foreshortened shot of the Savage Dragon here running, very Kirby-esque as well. Mike Mignola, also a fan of Kirby, so all of this works together, right? And we got a little silhouette of Brainy Ape. So he's going to be involved somehow. And this shot here of like the train being thrown here is just insane. How amazing is that? Savage Dragon getting caught right underneath all the brunt of that train. This, obviously full of gas, would also explode, so I'm not sure what the follow-through is, the storyline, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I even feel like the way he inks this mummy characters is very Kirby-esque. I love how he can turn in and out of his influences and stuff, right? Give us a bit more Mignola on the Hellboy page, right? These little things that I don't really think he did before, adding the white and the black in the Kirby crackle, right? Again, they're both pulling from Kirby. Lots of shadow on Hellboy. Very cool. Love the silhouette here. Just so weird and odd. Just throw that in there. I don't even know if we see this character again. That's a pretty common thing with Erik Larsen. So we're back to Cyberface, you know, on the verge of dying here. And they've kind of rounded up all these supernatural characters who've defied death, right? So quick snapshot of Nosferatu, I guess, there. Goblins, vampires, the like, you know? And basically, who's got the best option is what they're asking here. So thankfully, Savage Dragon and Hellboy aren't at odds, as they realize they're both kind of on the same side. As you know, Hellboy kind of works, I guess, for the government, the Bureau for Paranormal Research, and the Savage Dragon's a police officer. But of course, you know, when heroes meet, they must at least fight or punch once. So Brainiac, I guess, takes over Hellboy's hand, I think is what they say. I didn't do that. Something's forcing my hand. And what it is Brainiape, who, in seeing Hellboy here, mein Gott, ich verstechen. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm not German. I'm just kind of going with what's there. Clearly, though, we've got Adolf Hitler's brain in Brainiape recognizing Hellboy as his killer, basically, right? Early on, that we saw that in this issue in World War II. So I guess Cyberface has taken the decision to become a vampire. So he's getting bit here by one of the lady vampires. So again, Erik Larsen leaving us with nice plot points to ponder about till next month. What's going to happen to Cyberface? You know, what's going to happen with Hellboy and Hitler's brain? Very cool. And we still got stuff on the back burner that wasn't really mentioned that much in this issue that'll come back. You know, Rapture, the Fiend's been wrapped up, but there's other stuff coming. Erik Larsen's always got a bunch of subplots going, which was always what made the series interesting as a kid, and still pretty fun to read now, I gotta say. Probably said it before, you probably know this if you know anything about Savage Dragon. Probably the most consistently good series from Image Comics, at least in these first I guess 50 to 100 issues. We'll find out as I keep doing reviews. Up to issue 50, at least guaranteed. So there you go, guys. That is my review of the Savage Dragon issue number 34. If you are subscribed and you are still watching, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your support and help. Those of you who are not subscribed but who may be watching, please subscribe below. It only takes a second for you, and you can't believe how much it helps the channel, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who might be interested in the same kind of stuff we are, namely comic books. So everyone out there, thank you, and have an awesome day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.